let's see. Give me your two favorite games on the schedule.
Ooh, my two favorite games. Um, can I pull our schedule up real quick?
Yes, I would encourage it.
Okay, give me 1 second. Where is it? There it is. Okay. My two favorite games on this year's schedule. I'm going to go with at Buffalo and the season opener against the Jets.
Okay.
Just big AFC East guy. I'm fascinated to see what Aaron Rodgers looks like. Like, this is a 41 or 42-year-old man who tore his Achilles and now he's going to go try and play NFL football again. Super interesting. And if he's any good, the Jets are going to be super dangerous. Plus, you get Robert Saleh against Kyle Shanahan's offense for the first time. So that'll be fun. The Jets had an awesome defense last year. I think it's going to be a really good unit this year. That's a fun matchup to me. And then Buffalo, like they beat the 49ers pretty soundly. The score was close, but the game wasn't that close. Last time they played them in 2020 down in Arizona during the pandemic year. Buffalo figures to be one of the best teams in the AFC, and that'll be a good little measuring stick game for the 49ers in prime time in Buffalo. Like you said, it's going to be dark. That feels like a football game to me. I can't wait.
I agree with everything you said. Yeah, I love the Jets game. I love the Bills game. I think my favorite game on the schedule is Monday night, December 30th against the Lions. To me,
yeah,
like that has the feel, that has the potential to be what Seahawks Niners was in the season finale of 2019.
Yeah.
It's not super often that you get like I know every game in the NFL obviously feels big, partly because of scarcity, right? You only get 17 of these games as opposed to 82 in the NBA or 162 in baseball. Like that's really the reason why the NFL is so popular. But even still, you don't get a ton of regular season games where it feels like a whole lot is on the line.
Yeah.
Right. And like that Seattle game in 2019 felt like a ton was on the line because of how important that bye week was, like we mentioned earlier. But this game in particular, if the Lions have the season that we think they will, and the Niners have the season that, you know, we're expecting them to have as a contender in the NFC, that game could ultimately be the determining factor for the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And that's why, and Monday night, late in the year, it's so good. I'm just super pumped about it. Aesthetically, the red and gold versus the blue and silver, whether it's Niners Cowboys or Niners Lions, it just pops off the screen for whatever reason. I would say it's one of those, like, it just adds to it for reasons I can't really explain. But if you're into aesthetics and uniform contrast, which can be important, Niners Lions is you know, always really good from that perspective. Man, would it be lame if I said my other favorite game was the week before at Dolphins?
No, I think that's going to be.
I really like that game.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
I really like that game. I like the fact I just love Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel going against each other. I love the speed that the Dolphins offense has and the test that poses the 49ers defense. Raheem Mostert, those running backs, like all that speed they have. I think Miami's defense, if it can stay healthy, is talented and can, you know, be good enough for the Dolphins to make a run. We'll see about Tua. You know, I think I don't think Tua is, you know, I think Tua very correctly is placed in the Kirk Cousins camp of like can put up monster numbers potentially in the regular season, but might not be a guy that you really count on to win big games. This will be a big game. Like that will be one of the biggest games in Tua's season because the Dolphins are going to be in the thick of a playoff hunt late in their season. The Niners are going to be one of the best defenses they face. And so I like seeing, I just like high stakes football, and it just feels like these two games at Miami, home against the Lions on Monday night, are going to be like super high stakes. And yeah, like it's easy to say the Chiefs game. You could say the Dallas game if that game still feels significant given the way, you know, recent history has gone.
Sure.
But I think in terms of like combining like the interest of the matchups and the stakes of the games, I think the Dolphins game and the Lions game are my favorite. But
Yeah, those are good.
I do love the Jets and the Buffalo game, like you mentioned.
One other one that intrigues me, just as we talk about individual games here, that week 3 game against the Rams is fascinating to me for the reason that the Jets, it's Aaron Rodgers, coming back from his Achilles. Okay, the Vikings, it's either going to be a rookie JJ McCarthy in his second start en route to his Hall of Fame career, or Sam Darnold, who kind of I think is who he is at this point. Week 3 is going to be a really, really interesting test for Nick Sorensen, the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. And I know Brandon Staley's in the building, and Brandon Staley and Kyle Shanahan know Sean McVay as well as anybody, and they're going to have a good grasp on what the Rams' offense is going to want to do. But the Niners, for the most part, have done a pretty good job of stuffing McVay offenses in lockers for the last few years. And that'll be the first time that Sorensen's getting a chance to go up against them and to deal with, the different wrinkles that McVay is going to have and the different adjustments they're going to make. That's going to be a huge test for me, just kind of to see how does he adjust week to week, and then how does he adjust in games, because McVay is going to. And how does Sorensen respond to that? That'll be fun.
Yeah, and
basically that's the week Nick Sorensen either keeps his job or gets fired, is what I'm saying. I'm joking.
Yeah, week 3 would be early, but it'll give us a good idea, right? Like going against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, I think is going to be obviously a super important test. And if Renardo Green is playing as a rookie early on, and he has to go up against Cooper Kupp and or Puka Nacua, we'll have a pretty good idea of where he stands, at least during his rookie season.
Yeah.
I think the Rams are pretty clearly the second best team. I know they made the playoffs last year, but I think they're the second best team in the NFC West. I think they're better than Seattle.
I think so too.
And losing Aaron Donald obviously hurts. I think Jared Verse has the potential to be a Pro Bowler like from the jump. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think any game against the Niners and Rams is going to be interesting. So there is that. Okay.
Matthew Stafford was really good last year, by the way. Like, I know his arm was going to fall off in 2022, but last year, do you know what he did numbers wise last year?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
He finished 8th in MVP voting. He was almost 4,000 yards in 15 starts. He was almost 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 11 picks. But he was excellent down the stretch for them. Like, he single-handedly kept them in the playoff race and was really good in the playoffs. So, shout out to Matthew Stafford. Good player.
I've thought for sure Matt Stafford was going to retire like last offseason or maybe the offseason before it. It's like, dude banked like $250+ million and has like serious neck issues and has played through a ton of injuries throughout his career. He just won a Super Bowl. Like, credit to him, man. If you want to keep playing, go for it. If that were me and I had banked that much money, I would not be getting hit every Sunday. But
over the last 6 games, here we go. These were the numbers I was looking for. Over his last 6 games, he completed 67% of his passes, 1,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 3 picks. That's a 109.5 rating. And then in the playoffs, 25 of 36 for 367 and 2 tutties, no picks against Detroit in Detroit. Really, really good
game.
Really good player.
Rice in the chat. Could the Cardinals legitimately get the number 1 pick next season? They look horrendous on paper. Maybe.
I disagree, dude.
Really surprise. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Cardinals won like 6 or 7 games and were
their defense, dude.
Like a top 10 pick, but just not, in the wild card hunt. I mean, crazier things have happened, but they're not a team that I think is just going to like lose 15 games. I think they're better than that, particularly if Kyler stays healthy.
Yeah, man, that's it. Like, Kyler can hoop. Kyler can flat out play. And even though they were dealing with quarterback stuff last year and Kyler was hurt, and they still played hard as hell. And I think Jonathan Gannon's a pretty good coach. I think that defense is going to be ready to play. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm with everybody else who's super high on him. I think Michael Wilson can play a little bit. Trey McBride is good. James O'Connor is good. Like I think they have a chance to actually be a really, really tough out.
Yeah, and they could run into some wins that we wouldn't expect. Like that wouldn't be surprising at all. I think there's always
the Eagles
like
last year in Philly.
we do a really good job, not us, but
Full
just like
stop.
the football punditry. The football punditry as a whole seems to lock in on off-season takes, and then we sort of like they feel like they get reinforced like throughout the months and months of the off-season. And we're like, oh, this team's gonna stink. And then we go into the year, it's like, wait, the Cardinals are 7-3?
Right.
What? Like that stuff happens all the time in the NFL. So I think there's so much parity in the league. The line between being good and being bad is so thin, which is what makes the league so interesting.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't pick the Cardinals to be in the mix in the playoffs come December, but like weirder things have happened. I think I agree with what you said. Like they're talented, and if they stay healthy, I think they could be problematic. But I still don't think they're better than the Rams. And probably
no, I think the Rams are pretty good.
Seahawks, although maybe it wouldn't surprise me if they had a better season than the Seahawks though either.
No, me neither. That's what's I don't want to dive all the way into this, but just to the parity point, it's really hard to go find teams right now that you're like, okay, that's a 3-win type of team. Maybe Carolina, right, depending on how you feel about Bryce Young. But outside of that, I think you can make a legitimate case for a lot of teams, if not being bad, mediocre.